Hi, welcome to Reporter Room. My name is Jessica Della Davies, and I'm an investigative journalist. Today, I have with me a special guest. We have Jane joining us, and we're going to be talking about the Richard Allen case. We have new updates in the Delphi murder case of what happened to Abby and Libby, and we're also going to have some Quinton Simon updates in the case as well, because the Chatham Police Department put out a very important post about the case, and I'm going to share that with you also. So, Sonia's here in the top chat. Sonia, thank you. And if you are not familiar with either one of these cases, don't worry, we're going to catch you up. So, let me go ahead and get started. If you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. I'd like to thank our producers, Energy Shots and Joy Cowley, and our channel members. I'd also like to thank our subscribers and all of you who are joining us tonight. So, everything Jane and I are sharing today is our opinion, and opinions are not facts. So, please don't send any negativity to anyone, anytime, anywhere. Let's be kind and good to each other. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Jakey5 is here. Hi, Jakey. And Fine Summer's Truth is here also. Welcome. Well, I'm so glad you guys are here. Let's get into it. We have some information on the Richard Allen case, okay? And we're going to talk about that, and we're going to do that case first, and then we're going to go into the Delphi case. So I just want to welcome all of you Reporter Room investigators. So if you haven't seen the video that I posted on this case a few days ago, you'll want to check that out next, because I go into it. It's only around 12 minutes long, and I will make sure I link this for you when we're done in the description below. It gives a good overview of the case. So so there's been a lot of speculation as to whether or not there was a premeditation on this case. And we know that the girls were lured into a catfish account, right? That was looked like a really nice, handsome young guy, and it was actually Keegan Klein, who was hiding behind Anthony Schott's photo. So Anthony Schott is completely innocent in all this. Law enforcement has cleared him. So we know that this catfish account was in touch with one of the girls prior, the day before, on August the 12th. I'm sorry, the day before, on the February the 12th, just one day before the girls went missing. So was this planned in advance? And is Keegan Klein a co-conspirator along with Richard Allen? And it would show a premeditation, in my opinion. And so what do you think, Jane? Do you think that this shows any kind of premeditation?
Yeah, because they were in touch with, whoever was behind the camera. Prior to them going missing, it does sound like it now. And I think that's interesting, because I think originally when the girls went missing, I thought maybe it was just random. I thought maybe they were on the bridge. There was a predator in the area that saw them and took advantage of the situation. But if they were on that account prior to them being taken the following day, that does sound like premeditation. And it sounds like maybe did one of the girls agree to a meeting on that bridge? It almost sounds like he was there, expecting to see them, which is another thing I was wondering, is if maybe they walked that bridge all the time and he'd seen them and he just followed them that particular day. But now it sounds like maybe there was an agreement to be on the bridge, maybe by one of the girls.
Yeah, I'm wondering the same thing, Jane. I'm wondering the same thing. Let me upload. Let me see if I can grab this real quick. Let me see if I can grab this video that we can look at that just shows him. For those of you who are not familiar with this case at all, and some of you I know are very familiar, and some of you are not so familiar, but let me grab this.
Allen has been arrested and he was hiding in plain sight.
So that video was actually, hold on one second. Let me get past this.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
What's up? Okay, so that video was grabbed before by Libby. She grabbed that video footage of him and the audio. So I think that's really interesting too. Yeah, if you would give us a thumbs up on your way in, that would really help us out with the YouTube algorithm. So this is the screenshot of that video, guys, and you can hear his voice also as he says, "Guys, down the hill." So he comes across as very authoritative in this whole thing, and I think that's interesting as well. So I think that I'm leaning more toward the theory of Keegan Klein possibly being a co-conspirator in this.
It
And we
sounds
have
like
also
it's me
learned,
too.
you are too?
Yes.
And the reason I'm thinking that is because, and tell me what you think about this, Jane. I'm thinking that because we've learned that his charges, he had over 30 charges that involved really heinous things that I can't say on YouTube, but he had over 30 charges, and those have been pled down. And I just don't see prosecutors pleading those down unless they were getting something from Keegan. So initially I was thinking that maybe they got Keegan because there was this whole rumor about, somebody, him robbing a neighbor, and they took DNA and all that. But now maybe they got Richard Allen after seeing that Keegan got his charges pled down. They got Richard Allen based off of him naming him, and maybe he's naming some other people too.
Well, that really sounds like it, especially if he got prior charges pled down. Yeah, he's in some kind of a plea agreement then.
I think so. I think so too. And then Connie's asking, why didn't Keegan show up for the meet? I don't think, I'm wondering if there were various people using this catfish account. If it was, Keegan is, the one that was actually hiding behind it. But is it possible that other people were using the catfish account also, not just Keegan? And so if other people were using the account too, maybe Richard Allen was one of the users of this account, lured the girls, and that's ended up what happening. Let's watch a little more. Technician. Yes, he has a license in Indiana. He's had a license as a pharmacy technician since 2018. So do you think he had to go through a background check to get that license? Probably. But this case has more to it than just a creepy late 40s to his early 50s guy who was hiding in plain sight. We also have a whole cat. So this, if you look on the picture on your screen, the picture of the heavier set guy, that is Keegan Klein. That is Keegan Klein. And the guy on that looks real handsome, that's the models. Now this is Anthony Schatz. He is not guilty of anything. He was totally cleared. His picture was literally stolen and used that. And there's other like sweeter photos. I noticed everybody's kind of run with this one photo of him, but there's other like sweeter ones where he just looks like a nice young guy. And you can see why young girls would be attracted to him. So I'm wondering if Libby and Abby went there expecting to meet this guy, Anthony Schatz, and instead encountered Keegan. What do you think, Jane?
Oh, yeah. You mean meaning that Keegan was maybe in that cabin, like he's really in on it with Richard Allen to that degree? Is that what you're
I'm
thinking?
I'm wondering.
Yeah,
That's just my opinion. I'm just
I
wondering if,
know, me
and there
too.
could be other people too. This could be a ring of people, and they
Yeah.
got Keegan because he was running. He, showed up when they traced back on this Anthony shots. It came back to Keegan, so they got him, and they got him on a whole bunch of counts. But now they're pleading those counts out, and it could just be to save money, but could also be that Keegan is providing valuable information on Richard Allen and also other people who could potentially be involved in this.
Yeah,
So
that sounds like it to me too.
So this is what Jakey says. He says if Keegan Klein was a conspirator, he would have dropped him in it long before now. I don't think he's involved for this. So you don't think he's a co-conspirator in all of this? Because I
I'm
can. What do you
I'm
think,
thinking
Jane?
now I'm thinking now maybe he is.
I think so. I think it's very, very possible. We just need to consider that as a possibility. And if so, and the fact that this account, this Anthony Shots account, this catfish account, they were contacting the girls one night before Abby and Libby were gone. So authorities charged Keegan. They got Keegan right away, and maybe he just had to sit in jail a while to flip, or maybe he didn't flip, and maybe it is the whole thing of, they got Richard Allen breaking into a neighbor's house to. That's the other theory that's been put out, that
Hmm.
stole tools, and although that was not considered a felony, breaking into somebody's house is a felony. So they charged him, got his DNA. That was the other rumor that went
Oh
out.
wow. Yeah, that works. Get the DNA for sure.
And now this week we're learning that Richard Allen placed himself at the scene. He admitted to law enforcement. He contacted them. And we
Wow.
always say these guys insert themselves into the case. So he allegedly contacted law enforcement, admitted to be on the bridge, and a police source revealed to iTeam8 that Richard Allen was in the area of the killings on the day of what happened to Abby and Libby, and that he allegedly told a state conservation officer, that's who he allegedly spoke to, that he was in the area that day, but his report was considered to be unfounded. I don't know why that would be. And then right after Abby and Libby were done away with, Allen went to the police officer and placed himself on the Monon High Bridge that afternoon, but he claimed he did not see the girls. And investigators are now saying that they did receive this, but they had forgotten this important information, and they probably were getting a lot of tips. But what do you think about him sort of inserting himself and placing himself at the scene of the crime? Is that incriminating?
Do you know what that reminds me of? It
What?
reminds me a little bit of Letitia Stout when she was trying to get ahead of things that they might find, and she goes, "Oh yeah, there's blood in the garage because the other night we were out there and he cut his foot," and she was trying to get herself out in front of stuff that they might discover and have like a story for it. Maybe he was trying to make himself look like, hey, he's so honest. He came forward and said he was on the bridge that day, but he never saw the girls, thinking that would kind of eliminate him as a suspect because he was forthcoming about being there. And like he came to us and told us he was there. So who would do that if he was guilty? Trying to make himself look like he's not guilty. I don't know. That's my thinking on that.
I think you're right, and I think you're right, and from his point of view, he's probably wondering like if he was caught on any cameras or anything like that. And this case did happen 5.5 years ago, and it is going to
Mhm.
trial, guys. It is going to trial. So, yeah, I think you're right. Let's continue on together, guys. So we know that allegedly, this is alleged, that there was a prison phone call from someone who was speaking with their family. And in it, he said that the prison was getting ready for a new prisoner at the prison. And he also said that the guards were acting strangely. So he thought the prisoner was going to be Richard Allen. And we have heard that Richard Allen was moved. Um, from law enforcement at least one time. We know that he was moved. And this same prisoner also claimed that Richard Allen was transferred to the prison, and then he was placed on some kind of a 24-hour safety watch or some other kind of watch. I'm watching my words here. And this makes sense because prisoners are not going to like predators. Predators do not historically fare well in the prison. And again, everything that Jane and I are sharing with you is our opinion. And we're going to talk about Ron Logan in just a second. So please stay with us. So what do you think, Jane? Do you think that he was getting some kind of threats and that law enforcement is trying to get him to flip on some other people? Or do you think they just want to make sure they can bring him to trial?
It's kind of like with Chris Watts. Weren't they being really careful with him too when they first got him in there, and they kind of moved him around a little bit, trying to make sure that nobody hurt him? It could be both. Maybe they're looking for additional info from him, as well as if it goes to trial, which it sounds like it probably will, trying to make sure that he gets there. Nobody takes him out first, because I've heard that too, that in prisons, if you did anything to kids, the other prisoners are very sensitive about that. So I've heard the same thing, and because Chris Watts, took out his own children as well as Shanann, this guy took out a couple of young girls. Yeah, I think he's probably, they're probably trying to keep him safe, and then hoping too they can get more info out of him.
I think you're right. Connie says Richard seen the release of the bridge guy and thought he was caught on camera, a trail cam, and wanted to get in front of being identified, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think he probably was worried. And imagine how horrifying it would have been to see the video of yourself show up that the girls got. That was, I cannot believe they had the presence of mind to get video of him. So let's talk about Ron Logan for a second. And so Ron Logan was that's whose land Libby and Abby were found on. They were found on his land. And in new details about the murder that were obtained by a podcast called The Murder Sheet. And they shared these with the Independent back in May. There was a memo which was submitted by the FBI investigating the 2017 murders of the two girls, and it was partially redacted, but it was to conduct a search at the home of the local man, Ronald Logan. Now, he was the landowner. That's where the girls were found, on his land, and he also allegedly lied about where he was at the time of the time the two girls disappeared, claiming that he was out of the area with a friend on the afternoon of February the 13th, right? That's the day the girls disappeared, and they were found on Valentine's Day, February the 14th. And the mobile location data had already put Ronald Logan in the area around the trail where the girls were hiking. And the document also said that his voice, quote, does not conflict, end quote, with the voice of the man captured by Libby in the video. And props to Libby for capturing that footage, because, oh my gosh, she must have had an alarm, like something was wrong. That's what I'm thinking. And she grabbed it. So he was never charged. He passed away in 2020, and it was all before this case was resolved. But the statement also said that whoever did this would have been covered in the victim's blood in the aftermath due to a, quote, large amount of blood lost by the victims at the crime scene. And we still have not learned what happened to the girls. We still have not been told that. And we're going to talk about the new lawyer and the new judge in the Richard Allen case in just a second. But what did you think about that, Jane? Do you think that it's weird that there's another guy and they happen to be found on his land? Is he just an innocent bystander, or was he involved also?
No, I don't think he's innocent in that either. It sounds like there were a lot of people, well, more than one person involved, definitely. I don't think that it's any, random thing that they were found on his land. He just sounds to me like he might have been in on it, one of the players that's in this.
I'm
to me.
wondering the same thing. And they're saying Ronald Logan was too tall. He lied because this is JK5 saying that he lied because he knew if the police knew he'd been driving, he would go to jail. Obviously didn't know about what happened to Abby and Libby because he wouldn't put himself in the area. He didn't. He said he was in a different area and law enforcement broke his alibi. His alibi
Okay.
didn't hold up. That's what happened on that. He placed himself out of the area. And then law enforcement found out he was not telling the truth. So they said that, and not conflicting with the voice. I mean, that little tiny bit of audio
Yeah.
isn't a lot. Let me see if I can play that for you guys. If you haven't heard it, let me see. Mohan High Bridge in Delphi on February 13th, 2017, just one day before Valentine's Day. And they were only supposed to be gone for a couple of hours. And they were supposed to meet up with their families, but this went horribly wrong because the girls did not show up at the designated meeting place. And on February 14th, Valentine's Day, the bodies of Libby and Abby were found. And police found the girls' bodies a short distance from the bridge on a trail very close to the bridge. So this case was named the Snapchat murders because Abby took a photo of Libby at around 2:17 p.m. and she posted it on her social media. And after Abby took this photo, a man approached the girls and can be heard in an audio telling them to go down the hill. Listen to this. And although so the audio and the video weren't put together, I actually put those two things together. They were captured separately, but you can clearly hear his voice. Let me play it for you guys one more time. Let me go back a little bit. Posted it on her social media. And after Abby took this photo, a man approached the girls and can be heard in an audio telling them to go down the hill. Listen to this. Now, there's been a lot of speculation as to whether this is Richard Allen or not on the video. I think it is. And what I'm looking at is he has a finer nose. He has the similar facial hair to what he has in some of the photos. And he's definitely got his baseball cap down like this, but you got to think from his point of view, he worked at the local CVS, and we know that one of the girls' aunts, and we're going to talk about this in a second, actually went in to have the photos printed, and he printed them and then didn't charge her, which was, just so gross in the face of the fact that he did this allegedly, because you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But if you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please do, and give this video a thumbs up. If you want to join the top chat, you just need to be subscribed for 1 minute, and you will have your comments can show up like this. So Find Summer's Truth is saying, terrifying that Richard Allen's daughter looks like one of his victims. Yeah, he had a daughter in the same age range. And it is creepy. It's so creepy. And Robert says, same build, gait, voice, clothing, that bridge guy and Ron Logan, in my opinion. So there's been a lot of speculation that the bridge guy is Ronald Logan, who's the guy I just told you about, where the girls were found on the bridge. But when I'm looking at this picture on the screen, I don't see Ronald Logan. I see Richard Allen. I see the more petite nose, the similar facial hair. And I would suspect because he worked at the local the local CVS, Walgreens, the local CVS as a pharmacy tech, he may have been interacting with these girls and they would have maybe recognized him, or he also could have been worried about camera, which is why he had his hat down, pulled down low like this, his hands in his pockets. So it's really, really crazy. Find Summer Truth also says that she thinks that it is Richard also. So I'm curious what you guys think in the top chat. If you think it's Richard Allen, put a 1 in the chat. If you think it's Ronald Logan, put a 2 in the chat. And if you think it's Keegan Klein, put a 3 in the chat. What do you think, Jane?
I think Richard Allen. I'm seeing him like you said you are too. The build, in
Yeah.
particular, the facial, similarity. It looks so much to me like him. So I would have to go with Richard Allen. Would be my guess on that one.
And I'm getting some 2s, but I'm getting mostly 1s so far in the chat. Let's see if I can show some of these.
He just to me looks older than the other guy.
You're talking about Ron looks older?
I'm saying Richard Allen looks older to me than the one that was running the catfish account, the heavyset one. Is that Keegan? Yeah.
Yeah, Richard Keegan. And Keegan kind of, there's been a lot of talk about the EFIT looking, the 2 EFITs came out looking so different. These are the 2 sketches of the 2 guys. And I can see one of the EFITs, I could just see maybe if you just saw him, Richard Allen, this way versus this way, that it would change the way you look. Because that would, his nose looks thinner in one of the EFITs, and the other one, it's definitely a wider nose. Or it could also be that there's more than one guy.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think?
I would still go with Richard. To me, it looks so similar to me that I would still go with that.
I feel the same way as you do, Jane. So we know now that Richard Allen wrote that letter that I shared with you about asking for a public defense attorney. I think he was planning to pay for a private attorney and then looked into the costs. And so the court did appoint Andrew Joseph Baldwin of Baldwin, Perry, and Commish, and Bradley Rozzi of Rozzi, Hillis, Rozzi, and Dean to represent him. And there also was a new judge because the judge that was on the case recused himself. He was concerned about death threats. So the new judge is going to be Judge Fran Gall. She's already started working on the case, and she was appointed to handle the proceedings after Judge Benjamin Diner recused himself. And she's going to stick with the November 22nd date for the hearing, according to John McGulty. And she is also known for allowing television cameras into the courtroom. So maybe we will get this on television, and that would be great because I do think the public have a right to know what's going on in this case. Yeah. So the law enforcement, when they talked about the girls, we're going to go into the arrest now of what happened, how they caught Richard. But I also just want to tell you a little bit about what we do know about how Abby and Libby were found. Law enforcement said that the 2 girls appeared to be moved and staged. Those are exact quotes, moved and staged. And the Indiana State Police arrested Richard Allen on October 26th. And I've also heard the date of October 28th. So depending on which news outlet is reporting it, I've seen 2 different dates, but they didn't announce it to us until Halloween, October 31st. And they may have just wanted some time to talk to him and charge him. So he was also accused of taking a souvenir from the crime scene, but we don't know what he took yet. So he was arrested on sometime at the end of October, either the 26th or the 28th, and he was charged with 2 counts, both girls, on Halloween. So he's being housed now at an unknown jail location, which is being kept under wraps because we know that prisoners don't like predators and neither do people. So since Richard Allen's arrest, it was also revealed that his home, he lives 2 miles from the Delphi train bridge where Abby and Libby were last seen on that video. So has he done this before? Just like Abby and Libby, there was another case in a remote area, and this would have been an earlier case, and this was on July, but it was also on the 13th of the month. Okay, remember, Abby and Libby met him on February 13th. Well, this happened on July 13th of 2012, and the girls' names are Eric, Elizabeth, and Lyric, and they went missing from a remote area and were later found also done away with. And there's only around 400 miles between their location in Evansville, Ohio, and where Richard Allen lives. They also disappeared on the 13th day of the month, and they disappeared on February 13th, is the date that Abby and Libby disappeared on, and Elizabeth and Lyric disappeared on July 13th. They were both underage. They were both white. They were both alone in a remote area. They were both dumped in a remote area, and law enforcement ruled their family members out. So we're going to talk about Anthony Schott's catfish account and Richard and Keegan Klein in just a second. But what do you think about this? It's so unlikely that this case, and I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about this. A guy this age, he would have been 46 when he did this, right? Richard Allen would have been 46 when he did this. So now he's 50 years old. It's so odd that he would just start at the age of 46. There had to be some other things leading up to this. Do you think these two cases could be connected, Jane?
I think that they could be, and I have to agree with you. At the age of 46, that's probably not a first-time incident, would be my guess. And he seemed pretty comfortable with what he was doing on the bridge. You know, he was not like, this is brand new to him and it was an awkward situation. He was pretty comfortable with what he was doing. So to me, I'd be surprised if that was the first time he did anything. He didn't seem like he was new at it.
I agree. I feel like he seems very calm. He does have his hands stuffed in his pocket, you know, trying to disguise himself.
Yeah.
It could be to hide a wedding ring or something like that, or have the girls identify him. But it's really, really weird. The whole thing is weird, and it's just so hard to believe that he would have been a first-time offender.
Yeah.
So Zira Kelly is, if guilty, is there a possibility he will get the death penalty? And yes, this state is a death penalty state. So yes, he absolutely could, which would, in my opinion, give him a motive, you know, to plead it out.
Yeah.
To avoid going to court. Jakey5 says he does not think that this is the first time he's done something like this, maybe years before. Yeah, it's really hard to fathom that this would be like the first time that he did something like this. It just doesn't make sense. Most people that do stuff like this don't start with this. They start with smaller things, and then it leads up to something like this. And they also don't stop. Now, they did get, you know, Keegan Klein, and we're going to talk about Keegan Klein in just a second. And I'm also going to give you guys updates on the Quinton Simon case. But what do you think, Jane?
I think what you were saying, or one of the other people in the chat was saying, I don't think this is a first-time incident. And I agree with you. I have heard, too, that they don't stop and things accelerate. And this was kind of like polished, almost like advanced planning, you know, catfishing the girls, using the fake account, being on the bridge. It sounds to me like where he took them was like it was set up ahead of time. And it was pretty organized, and he was pretty comfortable. So I would have to say that that's not a first-time thing, that he would have been more awkward, and and then the bodies being moved from wherever he had taken them and being put back outside and staged. Yeah, this doesn't sound like a first-time offender. It sounds like somebody that's, pretty comfortable with what they were doing.
Yeah, and the staging is bizarre, right?
Very, very, yeah. Yeah, he didn't want them found whatever happened to them had occurred.
And law enforcement still has not told us what happened to the girl.
Yeah.
We don't know how he did it. allegedly how he did it,
Yeah.
because everybody's innocent until proven guilty. But
Sure.
and everything that Jane and I are sharing today is our opinion, and opinions are not facts. So feel free to do your own research. But let's continue on, guys, because so we're going to talk about Keegan Klein for a minute. Okay, so Keegan Klein, for those of you just joining us, is the guy behind the fake Anthony Shots account. And I just want to make it clear that Anthony Shots is completely innocent in all of this. His picture was stolen, photos were stolen and used him because he was a handsome guy. So the profile was used from 2016 to 2017 on a couple of different platforms, including Snapchat and Instagram. And they used photos of him. It's a well-known male model, and they portrayed him to be very wealthy and owning several sports cars. And I say they because although Keegan Klein was the one behind the account, we don't know who else had access or could have been using the account. So Keegan Klein at the time was a 27-year-old man with addresses in Cocoma and Peru, which is near Delphi. And according to the affidavit, Keegan Klein pretended to be a model in order to engage with these underage girls, get them to send photos of them in various stages of being undressed, get their addresses, and try to convince the girls to meet him. And again, I just want to emphasize the male models whose images were used. This has nothing to do with this case. So Keegan Klein was arrested, and I cannot even say what he was arrested for on the air. Starts with a P, and and was linked to the account in 2020. So he sat in jail for a while. If he is the one that flipped on Richard Allen, he sat in there for a while. Maybe lawyers advised him to start cooperating. I don't know. But he allegedly told investigators that he would use the social media account to talk to underage girls, exchange messages, and he received about 100 photos from about 15 underage girls. And this goes back to, guys, don't let your kids have unfettered access to the internet. These guys can hide behind a pretty face. They can hide behind a handsome face. They can hide behind somebody that looks like they're close to your child's age, and you don't know who is sitting behind that account. So he's scheduled to go on trial in January of 2023. So that's coming right up. And so with the final pretrial conference set for December 22nd of this year, his attorneys indicated that the parties are, quote, currently engaged in negotiations, end quote. And they requested a continuance. So that's another reason why I think there may be some cooperating finally going on from Keegan. So do you think that Keegan flipped and revealed Richard Allen as the Snapchat murderer, Jane?
I think he did. I think that's how they got so close to Richard Allen being the person who, allegedly took the girls and did this crime to them. I think that he did, and I think that they're probably hoping he's going to give them even more information, and I hope he does.
I hope so too. Joy says she wants to jump in on the call. Joy, just go to the comment section and grab the link, and you can still join us, okay? And Sonia's sharing that she still has nightmares. And Ashira Kelly says she thinks he did it also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, if you guys are want to join this, you can still join us. All right, so let's continue on though, because there is so much to dig into on this case. So, and this, not all of this information may be new to each of you. I have no way to know what every single person has watched. I just want to qualify that. But this is new information. It's new information for our channel. So the reason that he might have cut a deal is because the court motion says that the prosecutor is not objecting. And that's why I do think that maybe a deal was cut. And we also know that people in jail don't like predators. And so they wouldn't like Richard Allen, but they also wouldn't like Keegan Klein either. So, so we've heard now that Richard Allen is in protective custody. we've heard now that Keegan Klein maybe has flipped on Richard Allen, and that's how they got him. We also have heard the theory about Richard Allen broke into a neighbor's garage, got charged with a felony. They, as protocol in Indiana, they took his DNA, and that's how they got him. They were able to link him to the scene. I'm really curious what you think, how they got him. Which of these theories do you ascribe to? Do you believe that it was a flip by Keegan Klein against Richard Allen, or do you think they got him randomly through DNA evidence? And after seeing the motion from Keegan's lawyer, I have to tell you, I'm leaning more toward Keegan Klein having flipped. It could be that both are true also. So put a 1 in the chat if you think Keegan Klein flipped. Put a 2 in the chat if you think that they caught Richard Allen breaking into a neighbor's garage, stealing stuff, charged him with a felony, got DNA, ran it, and it was a random catch that way. Put a 3 in the chat if you think maybe both things occurred. So I'm wondering if Keegan Klein could be naming more people than just Richard Allen. What do you think, Jane? Do you think there could be more people that have used this catfish account?
I think other people probably did use the account, and they must think that they're going to get more information out of him, and I'm hoping that they do. Yeah, I think that they're trying to get as much info out of him as they can, and I think that he is probably the main tip, the main source of information that led them to Richard Allen. I think Richard Allen breaking in and getting charged with a felony and being taken in and they got DNA, that's almost like a lucky break, that he surfaced and he did something that they could nab him for. But I think the other one flipped on him. And I'm hoping, and yes, I do think that there might be other players involved, and they're hoping he'll continue to work with them, and that would make sense why the prosecutors aren't objecting, and they're reducing or minimizing some of his previous charges. That just sounds to me like he's cooperating with them then. I guess we can hope.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you, Bucket List. Thank you for taking the time to do a super chat, super thanks. I really appreciate it. I'm going to put it to good use. I'm going to use it for, I'm saving for a new camera and some new editing equipment. So I will definitely put that to good use on the channel for Reporter Room. Thank you so much. So Joy Callie is listening. She says she would love to be up here, but she's on call. Oh, that's okay. And Jane says, this is Jane Labrizzi, according to authorities, they examined an old tip and decided it needed further consideration. And that's how they charged Richard Allen. So now we're getting another theory. That's so interesting. Jane, I appreciate that. Joy Callie gives it a 3. And Karen Marriott gives it a 1. Okay, so I hope I got all your numbers posted of what you guys are thinking. So it seems like a lot of people are leaning toward the flipped theory. Some people are leaning toward the both, and fewer people are leaning toward the DNA in the garage. Sonia Singer says, Abby and Libby deserve justice. I agree, Sonia, they do. All right, so let's continue on, guys. Got some more information on this case for you. So I want to just say, first of all, thank you to those of you who have been following this case for 5.5 years, because you guys kept this case alive and in the public eye. I give you so much credit for that. And I also want to give kudos to Libby. What a smart and intelligent girl that she was to capture both Richard Allen's image, his image, in my opinion, and voice on her cell phone. And so we know he was initially taken into custody to the Carroll County Jail, and after something happened, and then they transferred him to a state facility for his protection. We just don't know which one. But At the time of the murders, he was 44 years old. Somebody posted that in chat. Thank you. And he's lived in Delphi since at least 2006 and in Indiana through his whole life, his whole adult life. And he's married and worked as a pharmacy technician at his local CVS, where he received his latest license in February of 2018, a year after what he did to Abby and Libby, allegedly. So we know that Keegan Klein admitted to using the fictitious online account of Anthony Shots to contact Libby and is facing separate, I can't even say it, it's the P word charges, but he denies knowing what happened to Abby and Libby. So, I don't know how that comports with the information that we're getting, but he may have just been initially denying it. But the other thing that we learned is that the agents revealed that both the girls had lost, quote, a lot, end quote, of blood during what happened to them. And it is believed that the killer to have moved and organized their bodies, staged the crime scene, and then took some kind of a memento. We don't know what the memento was, though, from the scene. So for the first time, a memo revealed that there was some kind of a weapon involved. And the word weapon was revised in the document. However, the Murder Sheet podcast shared this back in May. And it says that the memo, which was submitted by an FBI investigating the murders in 2017, which was partially redacted, was to conduct that search. And we're going back to local guy, Ronald Logan. Boy, his name has come up a few times in this case. The memo application cites multiple complaints that Ronald Logan has a history of DV and regular V toward women, and that he possessed multiple items to carry out his threats, including pistols and knives, and quote, because of the nature of the victim's wounds, the perpetrator will almost certainly have had blood on his person or clothing. So we know that the law enforcement was also digging up the backyard of Richard Allen. What did you think about that, Jane?
Yeah, that sounds like that might be the case. And digging up the backyard, that sounds like I don't know, somebody trying to hide what they were doing, I guess, for lack of better words.
I'm wondering if they dug up, if he had the mementos buried, because there's no evidence. He was married, and I know people have gone after his wife, and I would just say, please don't do that. We don't have any evidence at all that his wife did anything or knew anything. I would say most likely she wouldn't have.
Yeah, more than likely she doesn't know. And yeah, burying the mementos, that does sound like it's a possibility.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
I think
because
so
the girls
too.
the girls weren't put back there. The girls were out and they were staged, so they'd have to be doing something else with that digging up the backyard process. So that sounds to me like that's possibly whatever they took from the girls. And you watch these criminal shows, and a lot of these perpetrators that do this, more than once, I won't say like on a regular basis, but more than once, they do try to take something, I've heard that too, from the person that they killed, and they keep mementos. Some of them I've even heard will film things, and they'll keep rewatching it. These people are just, they're very, very sick, people in our society, if you want to call them people, predators.
Yeah, if you want to call them people.
Yeah.
I really like that. I think a lot of people would. I really, I really like that characterization, if you want to call them people. And we're going to continue on with the Richard Allen case. And I have some updates for you in the Quinton Simon case. If you're just joining us, this is Reporter Room. If you haven't already subscribed, please do like, share, leave a comment. Everything Jane and I are sharing are our opinion, and opinions are not facts. So feel free to do your own research. This is the research that I have. So So now we know that there was some kind of a weapon. So for the first time, the memo revealed that the killing was using some kind of a weapon, and the weapon was used in the revised document. So let's talk more about that memo. The memo application cites multiple complaints that then we're talking about Ronald Logan was violent. He possessed multiple pistols and knives. But when I look at the video, and I'm showing you guys the thing, I don't see Ronald Logan in that. He does look to me like a Richard Allen, and so we can see he's a white male. He's dressed in jeans, a hoodie, and a blue jacket. He's got his hands stuffed into his pocket, and he was walking toward the two eighth graders on the bridge. So let me just play that for you one more time if you have not heard this. I put the audio with the video. This was shot by Libby, who had the presence of mind to grab this. But let me just play it for you. So the audio and video weren't together on her phone. I just put them together for convenience sake. Go down the hill. Listen to this. And although his face isn't clear in the picture, it was enough to give authorities a general description. They knew it was a white old. And we talk about how these guys love to insert in themselves into the case. Look at this back here. That's his e-fit that he's got posted up in that picture. Can you see that, Jane?
Oh my gosh, yes, I can.
If you guys want to blow this up a little bit more, you can see he actually has his own picture posted.
Wow.
And took a picture with it.
Gosh. Well, that's
And
enough
again,
for me. Gosh.
It's creepy, right? And then he injects himself into the case. He places himself at the scene, saying, but he didn't see anything, but places himself at the scene just in case. Don says, there are so many cases where the wife wasn't aware. If she suspected, she was probably in denial. That's a great point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Sonny says, I'm sorry, I don't know how to get in a sick mind. I'm an umbrella. Don't mess with my family. I agree. Now, Sky Stone thinks the wife knew, and she's a happy actress. Weird. But we don't have any evidence that the wife knew. Do you have a source for that, Sky Stone, of what makes you think that the wife knew? Six Sense Amelia says, I want to know what happened with the church car in the car park and the false alibi. And I don't know which person you're talking about, Amelia. Are you talking about Logan? Are you talking about Keegan, or are you talking about Richard Allen? Because we're discussing all three of these guys today. So what do you think about him having a picture of himself up on the wall, hiding in plain sight? What do you think, Jane?
Hiding in plain sight. I mean, he's smiling and he's right by the wall. It's almost, what do they call that? Like a Duper's delight type thing?
Oh, that's a perfect characterization.
Yeah. You know, I borrow some of these things that I think from people that I've, really excellent people I've listened to on YouTube. But one thing Dr. Phil has said that I've heard him say at different times when he was discussing other cases was that they're always leaking. And he said, one thing that they've been trained to do when they're talking to them is, listen for them, the leaking aspect of it. And that's not even leaking. That's like the red arrow pointing, like you've got on your screen, to the wall. And it's almost like sometimes they want somebody to understand what they did because they're proud of it. They masterminded it. Hey, I for the most part, got away with it for how many years? And yeah. And then inserting themselves in the case so they can stay close to the case. And they want to know what the authorities know and where the authorities are going with the investigation. Yeah. That picture to me says quite a bit. And again, like you said, we're just airing our own opinions. I don't know anything for certain. I don't, nobody does at this point, but that looks pretty like guilty knowledge, I think, is another term that I've heard some of these experts using when I've listened to YouTube cases.
That's really interesting. And Six Cents of Millie said there's another person. She's not sure of his name. Well, if you know the name, please share it with us. I'm very, very curious. Thank you so much to Sonia, so much for being a channel member and also for the super sticker. I really appreciate it, Sonia, and I will put it to good use. I will put it toward new editing equipment and a new camera. I am very grateful. Thank you. So let's look at a couple of more things, guys. Okay, so let's go through eerie clues. Okay, so the police they haven't revealed that much about Richard Allen's involvement in the case, but there's chilling links between Richard Allen and the girls. We know he had interaction with at least one family member at the CVS, right? So we don't know if he would have spotted the girls and if he lured them, using this sock puppet account, this catfish account, if he was behind that, if he had use of it from Keegan Klein, or if he was it, but it sure does look like Duper's Delight. And we also know that there are photos of Richard Allen and his family that have come to light, including a photo of his own daughter posing in the exact same location to where Abby and Libby were last seen. And that is some Duper's Delight. And while it's unclear when that photo was taken, Allen's wife posted the image just a year after the teen girls were found on the near the Indiana hiking trail. And Richard Allen's daughter can be seen smiling on the same bridge that Libby documented on Snapchat the day that she and Abby disappeared on February the 13th, 2017, one day before Valentine's Day. So this is why I don't think Richard Allen's wife knew. But another haunting photo was posted by her on Facebook, and this shows him smiling, which is the one I'm showing to you, in what is the police sketch of him, in my opinion. So he's happily smiling for his wife, and this is why I don't think she knew. I don't think she would have posted this if she knew. Put a 1 up if you think the wife did not know what happened, and that is my opinion. I do not think she knew. And that's fine, Amelia. You don't need to do it right now. I was just curious if you want to. I would love to hear more about it, though. I absolutely would. If you guys aren't already in, I have a reporter room true crime group on Facebook. If you post it for me there, I will definitely post it for everybody in the room so that everybody can see it. So I'm getting a lot of ones. Ooh. And Sonia says she wants to throw up. So anyway, Skystone says, he's talking to Amelia. Okay, not talking to me. All right, Find Summer's Truth says, is that picture in their home? I remember the sketch was hung up at CVS. I don't know where it was taken. That's such a great question, Find Summer's Truth. My only understanding is what we know, which is that his wife posted it on Facebook. What did you think about the posting of this on Facebook? Him happily smiling. She put it up there. She couldn't have known, right, Jane?
I don't think she did. It doesn't seem to me like she would know, because I think she'd be too concerned about her daughter and her safety if she knew anything. I don't think she has firsthand knowledge of that, no.
I agree. Sonia says she does not think that she knew. I don't think she did. I just don't see how she could have known and then have her daughter posing in the same place. Jakey Five said that picture taken in a bar where they go. Oh, that's interesting. And then let's see. Incognito Gypsy says I believe she wondered. She sat in the driveway with him for hours while her home was being searched and torn apart. Do you think she'll stay with him now, or do you think that the reason, because he was hoping to hire a lawyer to defend him. He wanted to hire it. Do you think because they own the house jointly, she's just maybe planning to divorce him at this point, Jane?
Um, I don't know. It would depend on how, what do I want to say? How convincing he's been to her, when they probably discuss things. And if she's really kind of gaslit into believing, whatever he says. And then, of course, you're going to want to believe it. You're invested. You have a marriage. They've got a daughter of their own. This is the last thing you want to believe of anybody that you've been living with and married to and trusting yourself and your child to. So I don't know. It probably would take a lot for her to disengage herself and take a step back and look at him and believe that he's capable of such a thing. It just depends on her and how, I don't know. I don't want to use the word codependent. That's a little strong. Maybe how invested she's feeling. And, she probably, I'm sure she loves him and this has been her family and her life. And, that's hard. That's going to be hard for anybody.
I agree. And for those of you that don't know what gaslighting is, I'll give you an example of what gaslighting is. So gaslighting is something that narcissistic personality people do. And I'm not saying that he is or is not a narcissist, but it's a common tactic. And I'll just give you an example. The narcissist will tell you they have a strategy. So they'll tell you that they have cancer and you're shocked. You're worried about them. You're like, oh no, they have cancer. And then you disclose to another family member, you say that how worried you are that they have cancer and how upset you are about it. Okay. So and you're just genuinely just wanting to talk to somebody. Maybe you're talking to them in confidence. Maybe you're trying to find out more about the cancer and then what the narcissist comes back and does is they will come back and say about you won't be privy to this. I never had cancer. I didn't have cancer. She's a liar. She's crazy. And that's what gaslighting is, guys. If you've ever had any kind of contact with a narcissist, you would know that, this is how they work. This is how they operate. And that is how gaslighting works, guys. Just to give you just a very simplified explanation. If you're just joining us, give us a thumbs up and help us out with the YouTube algorithm. And consider subscribing to Reporter Room because we are going to be covering this case as it goes to trial. The judge in this trial, we have a new judge, and she does have a history of allowing television cameras in the courtroom. So anyway, Mama Bear says his daughter finding out he took that picture of her in the same place, how she must feel. Yeah. What did you think? What do you think his wife and daughter feel like being used like that?
Oh my God, that is so creepy. I mean, that is just, I can't even imagine his daughter and his wife having to process all of this. I just think their whole world is being probably at this point turned upside down. They're having to somehow make sense out of all of this, and of course it's not going to make sense. It's like the other individual in the chat was saying, I don't want to get in their mind. We're not in their mind, so to us it's not going to make any sense. To his family, this is going to be just horrifying. And again, they're going to have to take a step back and look at who they've been living with all this time and try to figure out, the person that they knew as opposed to the person that possibly committed all of these crimes. And then the picture, that's almost, again, going back to Chris Watts, the picture he took of the doll and he sent it to Shanann. It's like, what is this? How are you supposed to, you're a normal person. You love that person and you believe in them and you've been living with them and you've got children with them and a baby on the way. How are you supposed to process this kind of nuttiness? I mean, this is like, it's beyond even crazy making. It's like, am I talking, is this a criminal mind? I don't know. I feel for his family. I just really do. Richard Allen's family right now is his wife and his daughter, that this is a lot.
I agree. I think that it's very likely, guys, that his wife and daughter are victims of him too. Not in the same way, obviously, as Abby and Libby, but Sixth Sense Amelia says, I understand how someone can be manipulated and totally naive to the person behind the mask. And that's such a great way to sum it up, Amelia. I agree with you. It is. And then Incognito Guy says, yes, the mom listed an older picture in 2018 of her daughter. I post old photos of my kids all the time.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right. I do too. So she
I do
would have,
too.
she, could have just been gaslit into this whole thing also. But that's how the gaslighting works, guys. And then they make you feel like you're the one that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, let's continue on. I'm going to show a little bit more of this video, and then we have some more information I'm going to share with you too. And for those of you that are just joining us, you're joining Jane and I on Reporter Room, and we are talking about the Richard Allen Delphi murder case of Abby and Libby. And we are doing updates, and we also are going to be covering the Quinton Simon case in just a little bit. So please stay with us. Give us a thumbs up and help us out with the YouTube algorithm. Older male. And I'm going to talk about the catfish scheme in just a moment. So please stay with me. Over the next 5.5 years. So if you look at this E-Fit, you can see how fine his nose is, although he doesn't look older, he does have that finer looking nose. And if we go back to a photo of him, you can see again that fine looking nose. What do you think, Jane? Same guy?
I think it's Richard Allen still. To me, the whole photo looks like Richard Allen as opposed to, no, I'm keeping everybody's name straight. That's Keegan Klein, correct?
No, this is just an E-Fit of a suspect that they thought did it. So I think it's Richard. I think that is Richard Allen. I'm like looking at the nose there, and then looking at this picture of him here. Whoop. See how fine his nose is?
Yeah.
So that's Richard Allen in that photo. See, he can look so different if he has his face up this way. You can see the fineness of his nose.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
And that's him, and that's what they had to work from. That's the photo. There his nose doesn't look as thin. So it almost looks like a wider nose in this picture when he smiles. And that's right there, back there. That's Keegan.
Okay.
Klein. And then this is what I believe to be Richard Allen. You can see the fineness of his nose. That you can see in some of the other shots. What do you guys think? Do you think this matches the description of what he would have looked like? And remember, this happened 5.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Sonia says, I can't even look at him as a person like Don Wells, Candace Bly, Candace Haar, and Jody Sue Brown. I don't know if I would lump Jody Sue in with that group, but that's just my opinion. And then Joy Kelly says, there have been many serial killer families that didn't know. I'm sure it's horrible. Yeah, if you think about Chris Watts, you'll see that, nothing in his history showed him doing anything like this. But the only difference between Chris Watts and this guy, in my opinion, is he didn't do it to a family member. But Chris Watts was a lot younger when he got caught. So for this guy to get to the age of 50 years old, and this be the only time he did this, I'm like struggling with that. That's why I brought up the other case earlier. So about the other girls, Elizabeth and Lyric, that happened about 400 miles. That happened prior to this in 2012. So let's talk about that handwritten letter that he did. It did work. He was able to get new lawyers. So the letter read, but let's talk about he said he wrote, again, a big pity party for himself in the letter. In my opinion, I, Richard M. Allen, hereby throw myself at the mercy of the court. I'm begging to be provided with legal assistance in a public defender or whatever help is available. At my initial hearing on October 28, 2022, I asked to find representation for myself. However, at that time, I had no clue how expensive it would be just to talk to someone. I also realized what my wife and I's immediate financial situation was going to be. So he explained that he and his wife were forced, quote, forced to quit their jobs, citing his imprisonment and his wife's safety. And I feel bad for his wife because I do think she would have never shared that on Facebook, in my opinion, if she had thought he was the guy that did it. I think she's been gaslit. I think she, probably up to a point believed he did it. But I'm thinking that maybe the reason he can't mortgage their house to get a lawyer is because maybe now she's thinking she's maybe putting some other puzzle pieces together. He went on, Richard Allen went on to whine that he has had to abandon our house for her own safety. What little reserve there is will fail to maintain even the original residence. Does anybody care if Richard Allen could maintain his original residence? I don't know about you guys. And quote, he said, quote, again, I throw myself at the mercy of the court. Please provide me whatever assistance you may. And he was granted 2 new lawyers, Alan Rozzi and Andrew Joseph Baldwin. So he got 2 lawyers from this. And as I shared with you, he was employed as a pharmacy tech at a CVS near Delphi. And a source has told the U.S. Sun that, quote, the people who worked with him had no clue and were just as surprised as everyone else. And they were really, quote, just hoping that there was some kind of a mistake and that it isn't him, end quote. And they also said, quote, but at the same time, if it is him, they hope there's solid proof because everybody wants to see this come to an end. And that's what we always hear on these cases, right, Jane? They are all always shocked and surprised when they learn who did it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's people that live right next door to you, or like in his case, he's the pharmacy tech. You can imagine he probably knows everybody. Everybody knows him. Everybody's in and out of these pharmacies, and you get to know the pharmacist and the techs, and I know some of them myself, and I live in a bigger city than than they're in, and he's probably very well known. He was probably liked. It would probably be the last person that they would think would do anything like that. And again, he's got the family. He's got a daughter those girls his age. Those things throw suspicion off of you. And everybody's probably in shock. People that cared about him are probably hoping, hey, I hope it's not him. And, he'll be cleared. And, his wife, poor thing, probably doesn't know what she thinks right now. She's probably so confused. And, like you said, he probably can't mortgage the house because she might be taking a step back now and thinking, okay, wait a minute, let me look back now at some things, and there were some signs back here, and, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what she's going through. And his daughter, that's her dad,
Yeah, that's her father.
Yeah.
And his mask is nothing like what he really is. If this is true, allegedly.
Yeah, if it's true. Yes, exactly.
He still gets to have his day of court, innocent until proven guilty. But okay, so Libby's mom, Carrie Timmons, told the U.S. Sun that she was, quote, taken by complete surprise, end quote, by the arrest of Richard Allen. And so she seemed like she had kind of, I think, just resigned that maybe this wasn't going to be solved. And again, I credit all of you guys for helping to keep this case alive. You guys are the ones watching the videos, making the comments, posting, keeping the name out there, posting on Facebook, posting on Reddit. You guys are the ones that kept this case going. So I credit you guys for this case not going cold. And Libby's mom, Carrie, said, quote, it's been extremely emotional. Of course, I'm excited and happy there's been an arrest, but he hasn't been proven guilty. It's all alleged. So it's not a time to celebrate. It's all been rather triggering because it's bringing back everything. And in a sense, I'm reliving everything all over again, end quote. Oh, that just gets me. What do you think about Libby's mom, Carrie?
Oh my gosh. we think, oh great, there's a break in the case, and this thing is finally moving. But like she's saying, she's going through it all over again. These poor family members, they're having, and then they're going to have to go possibly through a trial, and they're having to, like she said, they're reliving it. They're going through it again. Yeah, and it's great. There's the break in the case, and I hope, we all hope and pray this is it, and it gets resolved, and they've got the right individual. But they're having to go through all this again, and oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. I've got two daughters of my own, and I this is like worst nightmare ever. Yeah, poor families.
It really is. It gets to me. Well, let's
Yeah.
watch a little bit more, guys. Let's continue on together, shall we? If you're just joining us, you're watching Reporter Room, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up on your way in or on your way out. We are talking about the Richard Allen Delphi murder case of what happened to Libby and Abby. In 2000, the 14th. Such as Ethan by a sketch artist. The problem was the sketches didn't look anything alike, and this has led a lot of people. So this is, the other EFIT. But if you see the pictures of him with him smiling a little bit, his nose does broaden when he smiles. And also, if you tilt your head this way, his nose looks a little bit finer. When you tilt it up this way, it looks a little bit different, but it has the same facial hair. The guy does look a little bit older. What do you think about the two EFITs, Jane? What's your opinion? Same guy or different guys?
I don't know. That one looks awfully different to me. But like you said, if you look at it closely, there's some similarities. But I'd have a hard time seeing necessarily the same person in this EFID.
So you think maybe there's an accomplice?
I don't know. I don't know. The sketches, just to me, that doesn't look as much like him, as the newer one. And then even that really older one that you and I were looking at a little bit ago looked more like him. This one to me doesn't.
Let's look at the other one for a second. Okay, that's what he looks like
That's
from
him.
one photo. There's the image of him on the bridge, allegedly. There's what he looks like in the other photo.
Yeah.
And you can see his nose does look wider in this photo than he does in, let me go back, this photo. His nose looks more fine and refined, and he looks younger here.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is one EFIT. Whoops. And this is let me see if I can get it. There it is. The other EFIT. So it does look different.
Yeah.
It does look different. And that's where I think a lot of people are wondering if Keegan Klein is cooperating, and he was the guy hiding behind the sock puppet account, the catfish account of Anthony Shots. Is it the same guy? Is there an accomplice? Is there more than one person involved? So Carroll County Prosecutor Nicholas McLeland declined to elaborate on whether police are seeking additional suspects. So I thought that was interesting. He didn't say no. We have the guy. He didn't want to comment on it. And I also just want to say, in fairness to Richard Allen, he has pled not guilty to the charges against him. So he says he's not guilty. And again, he deserves his day in court. So Charles is saying his nares, and nares is just a fancy way to say nostrils, are not symmetrical. His left is narrower. And again, these were done. Christy says, a sketch is a sketch. I think that there are at least two guys. This guy has plain looks, nothing remarkable. He's going to look like everything like the sketches and nothing like the sketches. And then Six Sensibility says ears. Ears are unique to each person, like fingerprints. All right, so let's look at the ears. Okay, so we got the ears on this one, but I don't know like how close up they got. There's the, oh, let me go to the other one. There it is. That's the ears on the other one. And to me, they don't look alike. This one to me does look like Richard Allen. The nose looks the same. The fuller face looks the same, but he doesn't have the facial hair. And this one does have the same facial hair as Bridge Guy. The nose looks wider. I don't know, guys. I don't know, but let's continue on for a second. Accomplice to Richard Allen. Richard Allen, a 50-year-old CVS worker living in Delphi, broke into his neighbor's garage. Now, what he stole was not enough to charge him with anything major, but it is a felony to break in and enter someone else's property. So he got charged with a felony, and law enforcement was able to extract his DNA. They ran a cross-check, and lo and behold, there was a match to Libby and Abby's killer. So that's the other theory that I was telling you guys about, that about them finding the DNA and matching it to Richard Allen. That they that he supposedly, this is the other theory. One theory is that Keegan Klein has flipped on him, and that's why his charges have gotten reduced. And those were some pretty serious charges. So I don't think Keegan Klein's getting out of jail or is going to walk on this, but he may have gotten himself out of into maybe a more protective custody situation by cooperating on this. But his charges were reduced around the time that he's about to go to trial. All of a sudden, they round up Richard Allen, who was apparently on nobody's radar, even though he came forward to law enforcement and said he was at the bridge and he didn't see anything. Now, again, he's a pharmacy tech worker. He doesn't have any history. So even if they would have run anything, a pharmacy tech worker would go through a background check because of the medications that they're handling. So he didn't have anything on his background that would alert law enforcement that this was their guy. So Six Sense Amelia, thank you for having respect, diplomacy, and tact. You're all awesome. You guys are. We have a great chat. And Patty Martin says, I would hate to have to describe a face I only saw for a few seconds to a sketch artist. That's a great point, Patty, because eyewitness identification is notoriously unreliable. What do you think about that, Jane?
I think it's unreliable too. It's hard to remember what you just saw for a moment in time and then to give the police an accurate sketch. You just be kind of, making your way through it. Like, do the eyes look like this? You'd have to, well, I don't know, I guess. I think it's difficult to get an accurate sketch. Our minds don't remember things that they only saw in a flash. It's hard. The recall isn't going to be perfect by any means. It's difficult.
I think you're right. I agree with you, Jane. I agree. And so find some truth. I can't imagine meeting his wife or daughter if he allegedly did this horrible thing. Yeah, and I just want to say I want to keep the rhetoric about the wife down, and they aren't charged with anything. It's so unlikely that she would have known about this. I don't think she would have posted that picture of him with his duping delights grin on his face. If they would have thought for a second that he did it, right? Joy Kelly says that I believe someone else was involved. That's how he got caught. Yes, we could be wrong, but I don't think so this time. If someone else knows, it's no longer a secret. So that just goes back to, are there more people that were utilizing this sock puppet account? What do you think, Jane? Do you think there was more than one male could have been granted access to Keegan Klein?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
What do you guys think in the chat? Go ahead, Jane.
Oh, I was just going to say, when there's a catfished account like that, it's hard to say how many people are users of it. And yes, I think that was probably a used account by more than one person for sure. And he's a male model, you had said, Anthony Schatz, correct?
The male model is innocent. Yeah, he's been ruled out.
Yeah.
That's Anthony
Oh yeah,
Schatz.
yeah, totally. I'm sure that he's totally not involved in all that. They just
How
use his image. Yeah.
mortifying to have your image
Uh,
associated with this case.
you know,
And
that
you're,
reminds me too of Casey Anthony. Didn't she use some girl's name as a nanny or something? And
yeah,
then they
she
had
used,
to look into the girl,
yeah,
and the girl wasn't in any way involved in her and knew nothing about her. And they cleared her, but she used her name as the nanny, I believe. If
yeah,
I'm
and
not mistaken, that's kind of
you're
an older
right. It was
case.
Zenaida
Yeah.
Gonzalez, and Casey Anthony
Oh,
named
that's right.
her in the case as being having the one that had Kaylee. And this, there really was a woman named
Yeah.
Zenaida Gonzalez. And so this
Yeah.
poor woman got threats. She was harassed. She was doxxed. I mean, yeah, it's really,
Yeah.
really scary.
Yeah, it is. Very.
Tara says he has cold, soulless eyes. It's hard to believe that this was his first time and he's supposed to be alone.
Yeah.
Knowing I really don't care, he did not act alone. Yeah, was this like a lone wolf situation where he just, was acting on his own? Or was he, along with Keegan Klein, using the sock puppet catfish account of Anthony Schatz to
Mhm.
lure young women? Was it more than just Keegan Klein? And why did he become so fixated on Abby or Libby? We don't know which one he was fixated on, because or if was it both? But it sounds like it might be some kind of a fixation or stalking situation. Maybe he interacted with her at the CVS and became intrigued, or maybe he was interacting on the internet. And guys, if you have preteens and teens, think about who they're interacting with. Ask to have, make sure you're checking their laptops and their cell phones for who they're interacting with, who they're talking to, because we don't know who's hiding behind this guy, Anthony Schatz. His face, the picture I showed you is one of him, just posing in the mirror without his shirt on. But there are like other pictures of him, and I'll share with you in a future video, where he has got like the sweetest smile, because, he probably is a really sweet, good guy. And they hid behind, well, we know Keegan Klein definitely hid behind this, and possibly Richard Allen, sorry. And, he has like the sweetest smile. You can see where a young eighth grade girl would be very attracted to somebody like this. And you don't know who your kids are talking to, who your grandkids are talking to online. And Find Summer's Truth is like, yeah, he's got his hood up, doesn't he? Yeah, he's got everything, the collar up, the chin down, the hat down, his hands stuffed in his pocket, everything in his body language to me says, I'm hiding who I am. And then very authoritatively, he tells the girls, down the hill, down the hill. Well, let's continue on for a second, guys. Let's continue on. And we are going to be talking about Quinton Simon in just a moment. So please stay with Jane and me. Grainy image of this guy. So they knew a couple of things about him. They knew it was a male. They knew he was white. And they knew he was older. Let's talk about that catfish account, right? So this phony catfish account was set up. It used images of this guy who has nothing to do with the case. He was just a sock puppet image that they stole from an actual guy. And he posed himself as being a male model, and he was wealthy, and he owned all kinds of different cars, things that may tweak the interest of an innocent 13 or 14-year-old girl who is online with him. And that's exactly what he did. So who is hiding behind this sock puppet account? Ugh, and can you imagine? I mean, the girls, I suspect they went to the bridge. They were out on that hike. They were expecting to run into Anthony Schatz, who is, again, is innocent in all of this. But they didn't encounter Keegan either, because he's a lot heavier than Richard Allen. So I think, even though he does have some facial hair, and he may be the wider nose, even though he is younger. So I don't know. Or it just could be that the e-fits are inaccurate. What do you think about Keegan, Jane?
He kind of looks to me like that second ephod that we were just looking at. He looks a little bit more like that one, his facial features to me. Um, that second one definitely not Richard Allen though. Not to me.
I agree. I think he does have the wider nose. He
Yeah.
does have the facial hair, so maybe, and you can't really tell how old somebody
No.
is, from a distance, maybe. But
And the eyes and the eyebrows look similar to me to
yeah,
that second ephod. Whereas Richard Allen, his eyes are not like set back like that, and they're close together, and they're shaped differently. This one looks to me more like that second sketch that we were looking at of the older person that I said didn't look like Richard Allen to me. He looks more like him.
I think so too. I think so too. What do you guys think in the chat about the EFITs? Let's continue on, guys. Please tell me what you guys think about the two EFITs. Is it just the same person from a different angle? Is it Logan, Ron Logan? Is it Keegan Klein? Is it Richard Allen? What do you guys think? It turns out that the guy behind the sock puppet account is a guy named Keegan Klein. And he was arrested in 2020, and he was charged with over 30 counts. Now, these have been pled down and some of them have been reduced. So one of two things have happened. Either A, he's cooperating with law enforcement to help bring the case against Richard Allen, or B, he pleaded down so they wouldn't have to take the resources and time to take him to trial. But what a creeper. And just another red flag, another reason not to let your kids have unfettered access to online, because you don't know what kind of predator is hiding behind a seemingly innocent or pretty or handsome face. Kevin Klein confessed to having contact. That should have been Keegan Klein, not Kevin Klein. But he did confess to having contact with the girls. He did confess to it. So I don't know. Find Summer's Truth is who gave the sketch artist the description. I'm wondering if it was taken from the video that Libby shot, because we don't have any known witnesses that saw the man on the bridge. So I'm thinking they may have taken them from the video. What do you think, Jane?
Taken from the video. Yeah, I would think so too.
Great question. Find Summer's Truth. And then Karen Merritt says, so sad. They were probably excited to meet up with him. It's Richard Allen in the photo, in my opinion. Yeah, they were probably so excited that they were going to meet him. He's a really cute guy, and he's got money, and everything that would pique the interest of a teenager. And yeah, at least I don't know what to say. At least she got him on video.
Yeah.
So kudos to Libby for that. Let's continue on, guys. Line up with Richard Allen. So how did law enforcement get him? Well, we know that Richard Allen's neighbors saw police searching his house 2 weeks ago. We know law enforcement reportedly towed away his SUV. We know law enforcement left Richard Allen's house with several of his belongings. So we also are learning, though, that we think that Keegan Klein may have flipped, because Keegan Klein had over 30 charges, serious charges, for a word I cannot even say on the air. Serious charges against him, over 30, and those were pled down. Some of those charges were removed. So we also know that it could be that Keegan Klein flipped on Richard Allen, and this also could have been what led to his arrest. What do you think, Jane?
I think so too. To have charges removed and pled down, yeah, he's talking to authorities. I would have to say that he would be the main reason that the authorities would led to Richard Allen.
Just so heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
including clothes, books, a shopping bag, and a shoebox. We also know that law enforcement dug up 2 areas in Richard's backyard. And if you look at this photo and you consider it with the first EFIT, you can see how fine his nose looks in this photo compared to if he's being shot from a different angle. He does have a very fine tip on his nose. What do you think they were digging for, Jane?
Maybe the mementos that we talked about. Maybe something that belonged to the girls. Something to link him directly to that crime. And in this photo too, he looks like that mask is off. The other photo that his wife posted on Facebook, he looks like, the pharmacist. He looks like a family man, somebody everybody would know if the expression is normal. This one is not. This one to me looks like, okay, the mask is off and this is what's behind it. This is a very different expression. It's almost like a different person.
Yeah, his eyes look dead, don't they?
Very. Yeah, his whole countenance is totally different to me than the other photo.
Ducking Felony says that's what happens. It is usually because they can't prove each element of the crime, so they have to drop the charge or reduce it to what they can actually prove. Okay, so it sounds like you're thinking that maybe Keegan Klein did not flip on Richard Allen. Sounds like you're leaning toward the other theory. Dawn thinks, let me grab this one. This is a good comment. Dawn thinks maybe they were digging up the clothes he was wearing at the time of the crime. Do you think he kept, we know these guys keep souvenirs, and we know law enforcement has said that he kept at least one souvenir. The fact that they knew to dig up 2 areas in the yard, also, that's another reason why I'm leaning toward maybe Keegan Klein flipped on him, because why dig up 2 areas in the backyard? What would draw them? We know they carried out some items of clothing. What would draw them to go dig up his yard?
How about his wife? Did she see him doing something in the yard? Now it's all occurring to her that something might have been going on that she wasn't aware of. Did she help? You know what I mean? To say, hey, I did see him doing this in the yard. I thought it was odd. He said it was that. Maybe there's something that she contributed to, possibly, that she noticed. Another case, Chad Daybell. Remember when he told Tammy on the phone, hey, I shot a raccoon today, so if you see that the yard was dug up, that's what it was. And, it's in the pet cemetery. They try to get in front of those things and cover them so that, get the suspicion off themselves. Maybe it was something she contributed. Maybe she's looking back now at some things and thinking, okay, I remember when he did this and I was wondering about that. She might be helping them out a little bit now herself.
So you think the wife is now cooperating with law enforcement? Because you're right, Chad Daybell, he told his kids that he had shot a raccoon or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
he texted his wife. He texted Tammy was still alive, and he was saying, hey, I had good times. We shot a raccoon today. It's in the pet cemetery. That's why the yard's dug up, so don't worry about it. Yeah, always getting in front of whatever they're doing.
Kind of like Mrs. Pinkman says, kind of like the look he had when his wife creeped up on him and he was doing something on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really does have some dead eyes in that picture. He just doesn't look like his normal smiling self.
No, the other one had some warmth and some humanity to it, and this thing's pretty dead. Pretty cold.
His mask is off.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue on, guys. Let's continue on. So, we know Richard was working in plain sight at a pharmacy tech at a local CVS. And you want to hear something so creepy? Libby's aunt, whose name is Tara German, was also reportedly a regular at this particular CVS store branch. And she told CNN that Richard helped her print the photos for Libby's funeral. Quote, she said, So Richard Allen helped Tara German print the photos for Libby's funeral. So he was known to this family. What do you think about that? And then he like made out like he was being a good guy, saying he wouldn't charge her for the photos.
Yeah. Yeah. Staying close to the case for starters, and then trying to throw suspicion off of himself as well. I wonder if her aunt ever took her into the pharmacy with her.
That's what I'm wondering too, because the video that Libby did capture, he's got his head down, his hands in his pocket, his jacket's up. It's like he was afraid he was going to be recognized, and it almost makes me wonder if he approached her using that account of Keegan and lured her in. If he became obsessed with her because she had come into the pharmacy.
Yeah. And the picture you're showing, that's the aunt, correct? That's Tara?
That's Tara. Tara.
Yeah, she's very young and pretty herself. So yeah, he could have been obsessed with one of the two of them. But it sounds like it was the girls in particular that, he had some kind of a fixation with.
Yeah, I didn't show too many pictures of Abby and Libby on the thing, not because I just don't want to show too many pictures of them. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's hard when you're editing. But this is Tara German. This is Libby's aunt, and she is the one that went to the CVS, interacted with Richard Allen, and remembered him because he printed up the pictures for the funeral. So this would have been pictures of Libby that were going to be done in probably some kind of a presentation at Libby's funeral. He printed those up for her, and then, I'm not going to charge you. Anyway, let's continue on, guys. It's so gross. Said, I was a mess trying to get the images off my phone. Once they were printed, he, and she means Alan, looked at me and said, quote, I'm not going to charge you for this. Oh my gosh. He's not going to charge her for the photos from her phone for her niece's funeral. And his mask was back on, allegedly, because everybody's innocent until proven guilty. His mask was back on. He's not going to charge her. He's the good guy for the pictures of her niece's funeral, the funeral that he allegedly caused. I don't know. What do you guys think? Does that feel diabolical to you guys? Mrs. Pinkness says, so he was a pharmacy tech or he was the photo person, because the photo people are usually up front and the pharmacy's in the back. Well, but they do have to go. That's a great question. And he is a pharmacy tech. He was relicensed in 2018. He could have became newly licensed in 2018 too. That's also possible that he started out just working there and got his license. But so that's a great question, a great point. And Don Hagerman says, I'm sure he printed the pictures of the girls prior to the crime. Yeah, you don't know who's developing your photos. Guys, wasn't there a movie with Robin Williams too about this like creepy photo guy who fixated on people? Does anybody in the chat remember that? Do you remember that one, Jane?
I don't know.
It's an old movie. I'll have to see if I can find the name. Find somewhere. She said, I heard on another channel he wasn't able to work as an actual pharmacy technician anymore. I was not able to find anything that showed his license had been revoked. I'm sure now he won't be able to, but Joy Kelly said, I mean, after the fact, when people don't tell the sketch artist what to draw, sometimes it's spot on and sometimes it's not. It doesn't mean they don't have the right creep. Yes, I agree. I agree. Well, let's continue on, guys. We do have a Quinton Simon update in just a few minutes. If you're just joining us, you are joining Reporter Room. Please subscribe. Help us out with the YouTube algorithm. And Jane and I are discussing the Delphi murders of Abby and Libby, also called the Snapchat murders. The niece that he did away with. Somebody just said it in chat. 1 hour photo. Is that the name of the movie, Dan? 1 hour photo? Okay, that's you definitely might want to check that out. But let's continue on. He is beyond a creeper. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the fact that all of you guys worked so hard to keep Abby and Libby's name out there. 5.5 years of posts. because without you guys, this case might not have been solved. Without you guys keeping this drumbeat going, keeping the names of Abby and Libby out there. Without you guys, we might never have learned what happened to these two little 13 and 14-year-old young girls. So I give all the credit to you guys for, Jane, let me unmute you. Do you have you're muted, Jane, if you didn't know. You might want to unmute your mic if you can hear me.
Oh, I'm back. Thank you. I know I
Okay.
took myself out accidentally. I clicked something. I'm sorry. I'm back.
If you click the three little buttons, I think you can grab that.
Oh, good.
We're going to move on to the Quinton Simon case for just a second. Let me grab that one.
Allen has been arrested and he was hiding in plain sight.
I grabbed the wrong one. Hold on one second, guys. My bad. Let me grab the other one.
You wake up every day angry, hoping that you're going to get a phone call.
I would like to say to whoever has my children that they please.
We're just hoping that he's in somebody's house.
To us where they belong.
Maybe they thought they were his savior. Happy and alive. We want him back in our arms.
Starting. Turn my mic on. Sorry, I really thought that was crocodile tears from Billie Jo and Leilani. What did you think, Jane?
Oh, yeah. I mean, dry eyes. I think the daughter was at least trying. The mom, Billie Jo, didn't even want to be there. She wasn't even trying to look like she was upset. She was looking more like she just wanted to get out of there to me.
Why do you think Billie Jo isn't advocating for Quentin?
I think she's too busy covering up what happened. I think she's busy covering up for her daughter. And I don't think that I wouldn't have normally said this or thought this about any grandmother or mother, but she just doesn't look to me, or come across to me, I should say, like she's cares about him, like she's that concerned about him. I don't know. It's almost like there's a hardness there in her that I think we're all kind of seeing. And at first, you think, oh, well, she's the only one trying to pull this show together. She's housing everybody. She's working. She tried to get him some childcare. She's trying to help. And now you're looking at somebody that looks like they don't care either.
You're right about the eye contact. I mean, in the interview, she can barely
Terrible.
look at Leilani.
Yeah.
So she knows.
Yeah. She didn't want to be there and be part of that show. The daughter was trying to put on the show. She didn't even want to be there doing even that.
So do you think Billie Jo is another one of Leilani's victims? Allegedly, this is all alleged. Law enforcement have named Leilani as the primary suspect and the only suspect that they've named, and they've never come off that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some updates on this case as well in just a second. But do you think that Billie Jo is another one of Leilani's victims, or is she an enabler?
Wow, that's hard. It's almost like, aren't they kind of one and the same almost? I mean, an enabler almost is a victim. She's definitely an enabler. She's more concerned about getting her daughter through this than she is about getting any kind of justice for him at all. I mean, he's like on the back burner. Right now it's about her getting her daughter out of this, as far as what I can see, or what I think I'm looking at.
You're getting a lot of agreement in the chat. People are saying enabler. If you think it's an enabler, put up a 1 in the chat. If you think it's a, actually just put the word enabler. If you think she's just another victim, then put victim. Enabler or victim, or E and B in the chat. I'm just curious what you guys think. If you think that Billie Jo is another victim of Leilani, put up a V or victim. If you think Billie Jo is enabling Leilani, put up an E or enable. And I will share those as they come in. So far, it's all enabler. Wow. Woo. What do you think, Jane?
I think a lot of people are seeing the enabler there. And
Billie
she
was her
doesn't,
teacher.
yeah, she doesn't come across like she has a victim mentality. She's pretty stout herself.
Yeah, and she's not the squeaky clean victim
No,
in all this either, is she? She's got a pretty
no.
heavy rap sheet.
Yeah.
How do you think she got custody of the 2 boys?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh my gosh. You often wonder, how are these people getting custody of these kids? He should have been in child protective services. He'd probably still be here with us because, you know, I think that they lean toward putting children with a family member if there is one. But she has such a past record herself, and her daughter's still living in the house. I don't even have any idea why they did that with
And
him.
supposedly,
Such a bad
Leilani was
crime.
living there when they granted Billie Jo custody.
See,
Now,
that's
maybe they
terrible.
didn't know
Yeah,
that, but jeez.
yeah. And it's their job to know that. You know, they took custody away from the mom and they placed the baby in the house that the mom is still in. Yeah, that's really just sloppy, I guess. You know, what do you call that?
I don't know. I'm not. I'm. I'm just. I'm heartbroken.
Yeah.
I'm
And you know, a
heartbroken.
lot of the foster families, they love these kids. And when they come to get them to put them back with the parent, they don't even want the child to go. You know, they've set up this lovely situation for them and they've fallen in love with these kids. And, you know, it breaks their heart to see the child be taken from their home. And he should have been somewhere safe. And, you know, while this storm is going by, he should have been safe. He should have been tucked away somewhere where, you know, somebody cared about him and they were taking good care of him.
Well, we're getting a lot of great comments in the chat.
Yeah, poor little thing. And I think Diana tried, but you know, how much can she do? You got to send them home at the end of the day, and you know what you're sending them home to. She's probably brokenhearted. I think she really, really cared about him.
She's the only one that I've genuinely seen cry, and the only
Yeah.
caregiver of Quinton that I think really cared about this little boy. I mean, I don't want to say Billie Jo didn't care. You know, I know she
Yeah,
had
of
to work,
course.
and
No,
I don't know what her heart is, but the fact that she's not advocating for him now really bothers me. Does
yeah,
it bother
yeah.
you guys? I don't know. And then we have Casey Anthony, who's doing a Peacock Network special, and she's still trying. And you compare her parents, how they behaved. Now, Casey Anthony was found not guilty. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
But if you look at how George and Cindy Anthony behaved, they were looking for Kaylee. They printed T-shirts. They were posting flyers. They were organized. I'm not seeing any of that from Billie Jo.
No,
Which tells me
nothing.
that she knows we know she knows because she
Mm-hmm.
apparently posted on Facebook that Leilani did it.
Oh my gosh.
That Leilani did it, but has no memory of it. Now, I thought when she posted that, honestly, I thought it was because Leilani told her, but now I'm thinking that maybe it's because law enforcement told her that.
Mm-hmm.
And now maybe Leilani's backtracking on it.
Mm-hmm.
Mama Bear says, if it's like the UK, they will more children needing care than there are foster families. So they have to go with the family regardless of the circumstances. That's a great point. And maybe they wanted to keep the kids together.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's continue on, guys. Oh, I wanted to share with you the updates that I have. Okay, so the Chatham County Police Department put out a statement, and it says, quote, "The photos and videos we've shared over the past 4 weeks show you what a massive yet painstaking effort this has been for every single person involved." They said, quote, "We have asked the teams on this search to endure the physical, mental, and emotional burden of reporting to this landfill day after day, knowing the chances of finding Quinton's remains are low. And we are proud of every member of the Chatham County Police Department, the FBI, the GBI, Chatham County Sheriff's Office, and the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, who has performed this duty with unmatched professionalism." When you think about how many people are involved in looking for this little boy, it's just gut wrenching. And I got a question the other day of why they're not letting search dogs in. It's because they used to have the search dogs do the rescue on these landfills, but it turned out it was really hazardous to the dog's health. It was causing permanent health damage to the dogs, so they don't do that anymore. And you see these guys in hazmat suits, which is why I think they have a pretty good tip as to why they're searching the landfill. And the Chatham County continued on. They said, quote, "At this point, we do not have a scheduled end date for the landfill search. Meanwhile, our investigative team continues working diligently to uncover and collect every piece of evidence relevant to this case. We remain committed to keeping you updated about our search for Quinton, and we promise we will continue to share important developments as quickly as we can." End quote. What do you think, Jane?
Yeah, continuing to search the landfill. That's really great that they're being so diligent. They're not giving up on it. And gosh, so grateful that they're not giving up on him and just calling it quits.
I am too. And what do you think about the fact that whole Stingrays outing that they did, where they went out drinking? Why did they go to that motel? What do you think, Jane?
I agree with something that you've said in some of your previous videos, Jessica, that there was some planning possibly going on, getting their stories straight. They don't want to talk about it, where they might be heard or overheard, I should say, or in their home. So definitely, I think that that's where the hotel came in, and then going out to celebrate. Oh my gosh, that's beyond anything anyone with a brain would do. Celebrate in the hotel room where nobody can see you. They took that outside. They took it public, and wasn't that the first day of the search in the landfill? And these two are celebrating and drinking and causing a ruckus in the bar. Oh, it's so bad. I mean, the what do you want to call that, the optics, that it's terrible. There's no way to recover this.
I agree, Jane. I think that the optics were horrible. We have literally them partying it up in the bar, and a YouTuber caught that on video too. If it wouldn't have been for that YouTuber, we wouldn't have known. I don't know. I tried to have sympathy for Billie Jo. I really have. I just really wish she would have come out. I think my opinion of her would be so different if she would be advocating for Quinton instead of enabling Leilani. But maybe Leilani has ended up this way because this has been how they've acted in their household. And we know from Billie Jo's history, she's got a lot of charges. And so we know she knows how to game the system. And Leilani's not squeaky clean either. For those of you that are unaware, she was charged with with breaking and entering into somebody's house and stealing their money, I'm sure, and then charged with stealing money from her own employer. Sadly, she got probation. And if they would have locked her up, maybe she would have made some adjustments and changing. It's really, really sad. Six Sense Amelia is wanting to know who purchased the pool chemicals. Do you know anything about that? I have not heard about that, Jane.
I don't know anything about that. That's new to me.
So I have not heard anything about pool chemicals. I mean, they did have a swimming pool, so I would think, I guess what, the inference is that certain pool chemicals, like a muriatic acid, would maybe have the
Yeah.
ability to break things down. But I do think that they're searching the landfill because they have been told something, or they have Leilani on video throwing him in the garbage. Something
Hmm.
is driving
Hmm.
them to that landfill to continue the search, because I don't think they would be searching there
Mm-mm.
if they didn't really believe he was there. What do you think, Jane?
Yeah, not day in and day out like that. And they have to wear the hazmat suits. That's not a pleasant or easy search. So I have to agree with you. They wouldn't be there unless they thought that there was a really, really valid reason for them to be there. And didn't Diana, the babysitter, she also mentioned, didn't she, if I'm not mistaken, that the kids had been at the pool swimming alone at different times? Didn't
Yeah,
she? And Leilani was asleep and the kids were alone in the pool.
I
So
think she said her daughter went there to get the kids, or
her
went over
daughter,
there,
okay,
and that, yeah, they were alone in the pool. Nobody
yeah.
was watching them.
You know, when my kids were small and we lived in an apartment complex, we lived in Texas at the time, and I took my kids swimming all the time. They were just fish, they had to be swimming always. And all kinds of kids, when they saw me, would try to come in and get into the water and say, "Will you watch me? My mom isn't home. My mom's sleeping." And finally, there were so many kids that kept coming, and I kept telling them, I'm not watching you. Your mom didn't ask me to, and I don't want to be responsible for you, so I have to say no. So finally, I went into the leasing office one day and I told Beverly, the manager, I said, okay, nobody in that pool is with me except my kids. And I said, the only way this is going to stop is I'm going to have to leave. And she said, it's okay, go on home. I'll go outside and take care of it. But you just can't believe people that don't even care if their kids underage, little kids are swimming by themselves. They don't care. I guess they don't care, or they don't want to be bothered. Something, don't recognize the danger, if that's even possible.
It's kind of the same thing we heard about in the Summer Wells case,
Yeah, yeah. And
where we
Summer
have,
swimming in that water. Oh my God. I would never insert my child into that green, murky, who even knows how deep it is, water. No floaties on, no adult in there with her holding on to her, nothing. Just let Summer go into the water. There she goes. Yeah,
yeah.
terrible.
And we know there was some kind of an incident because H said he had to take off his shirt to go in there and get her. So
Yeah.
I don't, that just seems like an odd thing to just throw in there for just,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
do, I don't know, I do believe that. But Find Summer's Truth saying that she hopes that she didn't only throw his clothing into the dumpster. If that's what they have, that would still be helpful, because at least they would have the clothing.
Yeah.
Um, that he had on, and that might
Mm-hmm.
have some evidence on it, even if they found that out. But with each passing day, I think, we have to reconcile ourselves to the fact that law enforcement isn't searching for an intact little guy. They're
No.
searching
No.
for remains at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And
So sad.
since Six Sensibilia, reporter room investigators, can you guys please research, confirm, deny anything about purchasing pool chemicals? Although I don't think that in of itself would be that incriminating, because they did have a pool. So if you have a pool, you're gonna you're gonna buy pool chemicals. So I don't know. But if you guys want to search that out and share any information in the comment section below, Jane and I would love to hear about it. And with that said, guys, we're getting to the 2 hour mark. This is by far the longest live stream I have ever done. I want to thank Jane for being my guest today. I want to thank all of you
Thank
guys in the chat
you.
for being here.
Thank you
And
for having me here, and thanks everybody for listening to me. I know
it's been
there's
a
many more
pleasure.
informed people out there that could have been contributing more to the first case that we discussed. So thanks everybody.
I really want to hear your comments on what you think about Richard Allen, Keegan Klein,
Mhm.
uh, in the Delphi case, and I also want to hear what you guys think about the Quinton case. I do want to thank our executive producers, Energy Shots and Joy Cowley, and our channel members. You guys make this show possible. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And thank you, Jane, for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys
Thank
on the
you.
next one. Bye.
Bye. Thank